Hello, hello, and welcome um, to Wednesday night office hours. Um, it's a Wednesday, as I mentioned. These are office hours. Oh, I messed up the stuff. Look at my banner. It says Chem 400. Let's do a super jank switch up and make this Chem 420 office hours. How about that? Um, I'm gonna close my office window because my almost 2 year old is having his last gasp of consciousness before bedtime, and he is screaming for joy in the backyard. All right, let's see. What up, Fuzail? Good to see you. It's mostly just you and I in these things. One time we spotted a Mallory snar in the wild, but I think it's mostly just you and I. Dude, at any moment in time, hit me with questions. I've got 0 emails on stuff. Bedtime for the baby. That is the truth. Or for, I mean, you're an adult. You can go to bed whenever you want, which is awesome. Because you're an adult without a kid. Once you're an adult with a kid, you can't go to bedtime whenever you want because you have to keep them alive. Fortunately, babies go to bed at like 6:30, so you still have some flexibility, but you can't stay up as late because they also get up early. So you know, being a parent can harsh your stay up late, sleep late vibes. For anyone out there who's listening, we have a new mixtape. This one's a short one by the name of One at a Time. The link is in the description. You can check that out. It's on Spotify. Again, I made this. So I don't know if you know what day it is today. But today is April 22nd, which is Earth Day. And I made this playlist before I knew that it was Earth Day. And so, if I were making an Earth Day playlist, I do a lot of like acoustic stuff, maybe some Simon and Garfunkel, like mixing some hippie stuff in there. This mixtape is a short 11-minute garage rock punk blues. So celebrating a different type of Earth, maybe a post-apocalyptic or crust punk situation. I don't know. Check it out. It's good. Just like my 420 mixtape was not 420 themed, my Earth Day mixtape is not Earth Day themed, and that was purely by accident. So check it out. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. But it's there for you either way. I always remember Earth Day because it's my brother's birthday. My younger brother was born on Earth Day, and one year I think I gave him the best present that I will ever give him for the rest of his life. I got him a shirt that said Earth Day every day, and he loves it. Still wears it and still hopes that everyone will act like every day of the year is April 22nd, but he's had no such luck so far. Anyways, that's me talking. That's me killing time. As I said before, I have no email request questions, no questions, OCAM questions in my Canvas inbox. So anything we talk about today is 100% based on what you guys are wondering. If you have problems that you want explained or things you want to see me work stuff or specific questions, totally hit me up. But I've got zero programming up in here. So anyways, yeah, I'm at your guys' disposal. Fuzel, do you got anything, or are you just here hanging out? Totally fine if you are just here hanging out, but if you have questions, hit me up. Just hanging. Okay, solid. What are you guys doing in lecture? Are you still doing the retrosynthetic analysis deal? I started watching not Monday's lecture, last Wednesday's lecture, so I guess a week ago. And I found it captivating. I thought it was super cool. It made me wish I had Max as a chemistry professor when I was a student. I think you guys all are insanely lucky to have him. My my brother who's over today, we're celebrating his birthday, is a huge tea person. He loves all kinds of teas, and he just got a couple new blends of oolong tea. And whenever I drink oolong tea, I hear Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop going, "That's worth 1,000,000 oolongs." That's my best impression of an anime voice of Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop. If you haven't watched it, you should. It's awesome. A lot of anime people hate Cowboy Bebop because they say it's not anime enough. And it is anime. It's a Japanese production, animated production, but it's heavily influenced by American noir, American jazz. It's kind of this sci-fi Western thing. So it's very much, I feel like it's a animated Japanese love letter to Americana. And it's utterly unique, superbly crafted. Anyways, I like it. And I'm drinking oolong tea, and the currency, instead of saying that's $1,000, they say it's 1,000 oolongs. So that's what I have to say about that. I'm terrified that today's stream is going to be like Monday's stream, which is me talking into a microphone for 30 minutes, rambling. I mean, I got no complaints. It's my job to be here, be available. But it would just be so awesome to talk some chemistry. In the absence of chemistry, all I have to do is think about what colors do I want to underline this thing that says questions. So like we could do some salmon. We could maybe color in some spaces, like, oh, let's add a blue to that dot. Oh, we can add some blue to this dot. Maybe we can color in larger spaces with some green. See, now I'm just starting to feel like Bob Ross. Why don't we add a happy little tree right in here? No mistakes, just happy accidents. Yeah. So So it's all, what is up with all that French folklore? You know, like I want to know, like, what are the classic French monsters? You know, like is I don't see France being like vampire country. Like that's definitely Eastern Europe. Like what haunts the French countryside? What are the little French kitties afraid of at night that's gonna come get them? You know, like what's out there? I don't know. France doesn't seem to be a very scary part of Europe. Italy, for sure. Italy. No. What am I talking about? Germany. Yes. Italy's got some mountain parts. Italy doesn't seem that scary. Germany, for sure. Eastern Europe has to be a waking nightmare as far as folklore is concerned. But, what about France? What about France? Werewolves in France, really? The French have werewolves. That's interesting. Let's do some French. I'm gonna Google this. French folklore. Let's add to this list. Monsters. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Legendary creatures of France. All of these names are French, so it's hard to know. Whoa, there's something called the Imp Prince. That sounds promising. Reynard the Fox sounds very French. Tarsque? A legendary dragon-like mythical hybrid from Provence, southern France. Tamed in a story about Saint Martha. Oh, of course he was tamed by Saint Martha. Okay, so there's a weird dragon guy that like became friends with Martha. What is the Imp Prince? That sounds cool. The Imp Prince, known as Le Prince Lutin in French, is a French fairy tale written by Marie Catherine D'Aulnoy and is published in her fairy book Fairy Tales. This was published in 1697, so that's how you know it's true. So like an imp or a hobgoblin type of thing, inherited from Normandy, similar to the house spirits of Germany or Scandinavia. At least this is what Wikipedia is telling me. It's the story of a prince who gets turned into an imp. He's has to retreat to the countryside. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it's not too scary. There are ogres there. What's a quinotar? A quinotar is a mythical sea meat creature mentioned in the 7th century Frankish chronicles of Fredegar, referred to as Bestie Neptuni Quinotar Simili. That's my best French. Fuzel, you're awesome. Let's hear more about this quinotar. It was believed to have fathered Merovius by attacking the wife of a Frankish king. And it's said to have sired the lines of Merovingian kings. Interesting. A sea monster who's like, and my kids are kings of France. Or maybe it's the kings of France being like, we're descended from sea monsters. How cool is that? What is this quinotar? The name translates from Latin as bull with 5 horns. So a normal bull plus 3. A sea bull with 5 horns. Often he has symbols similar to the sea god Neptune, who was a merfolk. Neptune was the son of Poseidon. Horns of a mythical bull or minotaur. So I'm wondering if this is if this quinotar is like a minotaur mermaid. How weird would that be? It's not known whether the legend merged both elements by itself, or if the merger should be attributed to the Christian author, they're saying. Yeah, interesting. So, like, I guess there's a lot of bull-related fertility myths for Greek gods, and this is kind of a weird amalgam of a minotaur in the ocean that is fathering a line of kings. So, hey, not a terrifying monster. I don't think you would tell that to your kids at night trying to scare them. But interesting. There's an evil horse named Cheval Guavin. There's another evil horse named Cheval Malais. Evil horses. Not going to scare the kids at night, you know? It's like, where are the teeth here? There's like dwarves and gnomes. There's the Beast of Gévaudan. It's the historical name of a man-eating animal that basically just looks like a wolf. Wolves can get kids, I guess. What else? What else you got? There's a black dog ghost. A spectral or demonic entity found primarily in the folklore of the British Isles. Oh, they're ripping off something from England. The black ghost dog. There's a legendary mountain goat. Not scary. There's lady spirits who live in the mountains. Oh, this looks promising. What about the Farfadets? These are sprites, imps, leprechauns type things, pixies. The picture kind of looks scary, but it turns out they're just little tiny guys. We know what gargoyles are. We watched the cartoon on Fox. Yeah, as long as they have Shrek, they do have ogres. It's kind of scary, I guess. You make a solid Fuzail. You make a solid point. Let's see. There's a Guivre. It's a creature that's similar to a dragon. They're kind of portrayed as serpentine. They've got venomous breath. They look kind of tiny. I'm looking at a picture of one of these dudes. It's got bat wings. It's not too bad. Oh, it's like a worm. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, yeah, they're European. They have their own type of dragon. It doesn't look particularly worse than anything else. And you don't really need to, like... I feel like you don't use dragons to scare kids at night because it's like, the dragon will get you, but they're gigantic. You'll see them coming from a mile away. It's not going to sneak up and, like, find you. You know? Ooh, tell me more about Jean de Lors. Or John the Bear. He basically looks like a furry, like a bear with human hands and a human face, but still the bear ears. Very where the wild things are. Born weird. Okay, so born half bear, half human. Obtains a weapon, usually a heavy iron cane. Bands up with some companions. Discovers the underworld, rescues 3 princesses. This guy's not a monster, he's the hero. Yeah, well, they totally can be. Especially in Chinese folklore. Dragons. Dragons are typically like the embodiment of wisdom. In Chinese folklore. Europe was afraid of those things. Dragons, they were considered like embodiment of chaotic evil. So it really depends upon where they're coming from. So typically in France, being like the rest of Europe, probably dragons are bad. But there are plenty of folklore where dragons are good, including but not limited to the DreamWorks movies How to Train Your Dragon. All right, John the Bear was lame. Huh. Lucarocco is a mythical beast that's half serpent, half mollusk at the same time. So it's half scaly, half slimy. It's massive, a long body, carried an enormous shell on its back. It's a snail. They have little tiny gnomes. There's a spirit that can appear as like a dog or a cow or a black cat or a rat or a fox. They could be evil or helpful. They're called Matago. These are like not very... I'm not quaking in my boots. Like Russian folklore, nightmarish. This stuff is kind of... I think ogre. Okay, we got an ogre. Large, hideous, man-like thing that eats ordinary human beings, especially children. Okay, this is what you scare children with if you're raising them in France. The ogres will eat you. And they're like onions. Reynard the Fox. There's a wild man. A mythical figure named a wild man. He's literally a guy with no clothes. Called a wild man. Alright. Well, Wikipedia does not have a lot of scary things. I think the ogre is as bad as it gets. Which, yeah, seems to live up to what I was expecting. The take home, I guess, is that France is not a scary place, so I don't think the children were raised in fear of death or much anything else for that matter. Dude, we got into some serious French folklore today, like way more than... I mean, Monday I was just kind of wondering about it. We actually got to like learn some stuff that wasn't organic chemistry. So, yo! As you can see, I just wrote the word if because I was about to say if. What are we talking about? We're talking about French folklore. French folklore, because there are no OChem questions at the moment. And Vraj, you popped in at just the right time because I was literally just writing, if there are none. I think I'm gonna peace out. But if there are questions, I will not peace out. I will be more than happy to stay and answer them. It was just getting to the part in the stream where, yeah. So if you got stuff, like, hit me. I'm down to hang out for like a few more minutes too. But again, we were kind of building to the place where I had free associated about 30 minutes of content, just me talking about who knows what. And yeah. And so you know, I can only do that for so long before I get tired of the sound of my own voice. Vraj with the save. Yeah, he's going to keep this thing going. I think. Unless he doesn't have questions, then, you know, whatever. I love having an office window. I'm watching my dog poop in the yard right now. How cool is that? How many of you get to watch their dog poop while they're at work? Not many, I would venture to say. Or guess. Yeah. It says Chem 400 office hour. I messed up the title. Sorry. It's what is the difference between alkenes and alkynes? Great question. Let me pop open a new slide. So, simply put, an alkene, they're very similar. An alkene is a carbon. It's a carbon-carbon double bond. And an alkyne is a carbon-carbon triple. There are, Raj, there are no dumb questions as long as they're honest. The only dumb question is a disingenuous question where someone's trying to show off or be a turd. But if a question's honest, it is not dumb. So that is the difference between an alkene and an alkyne. You don't have a dog. Well, then you can't watch your dog poop while you're at work, that's for sure. Let me tell you, it is quite a time. Quite a time indeed. Quite a time to be alive. Uh, My my brother's over and I can hear him telling my 2-year-old that he's so cute. Everyone needs a doting uncle, right? Totally. So that is the difference between an alkene and an alkyne. Um, are there other questions out there? I'll continue coloring this thing while I wait for some to roll in. You know, office hours are going slowly when you decide to create your own adult coloring book out of your notes. So an alcohol with two hydroxyl groups are called diols or glycols. Why are they called such complicated names? Because complicated names are fun. Right. So a diol is generic for two alcohols. Let's see, and there are always to actually remember both names. Like one is used more than another. So I would say that I would say that the the so a diol a diol is just the generic definition of a molecule with two alcohols in the molecule. All right, two alcohols in the molecule. It is called a diol. So I would say that, like, in general, you don't hear them called glycols unless you're specifically talking about the compound. Whoa. Ethylene glycol. Ethylene glycol is this compound. It's a 2-carbon chain with an alcohol on either end. This is really the only thing that I've ever seen called a glycol. before. So you could have like, you could also call this a diol, like a 1,2 diol, but ethylene glycol is just the common name for this molecule. Okay, sorry. New question. So yeah, I mean, sorry, answering your previous question, is there any way to remember both names? Is one used more than the other? Diol is used way more than glycol. So a diol is used all the time. Ethylene glycol. Whoa. Ethylene glycol is the only instance off the top of my head I've ever seen glycol used. So you just kind of need to know that this guy is ethylene glycol. That's the only time you'll run into it. Okay, ethyl alcohol. Sorry, I'm just kind of doing these as bullets. So, your question, ethyl alcohol is related to ethanol, and turns out that ethyl alcohol is ethanol. So those two are the same. All right. Now, glycolysis is something else. In glycolysis, a sugar like glucose is broken down into pyruvate. So glycolysis is not glycolysis is not related to glycols, which sounds utterly ridiculous. But glycolysis is a biochemical process that converts glucose this can be either alpha or beta. That's a wedge. Dash, wedge, dash. So it's an enzymatic process that converts glucose, breaks it down into pyruvate, which is the conjugate base of pyruvic acid. So nothing to do with glycols. We are using this year we are using I don't know which edition. Let me just look it up real quick. Klein. We're using it's called Organic Chemistry by David Klein. And will it be the same next year? It depends on I think the textbook you use depends on who your professor is. I don't know if everybody I don't know if everyone uses Klein. Mahoney teaches out of Klein, though. Let's see. C6, H2O. I believe there's water involved in glycolysis. Yes. Yeah, there is H2O involved. In organic chemistry, you rarely balance chemical equations. So that's very, like with Gen Chem, we're always preoccupied with balancing the chemical equation, make sure it's balanced. In OChem, we're really only interested in what we start with and what we end with, which is a very different way of looking at reactions than kind of the rigors of balancing them. I feel like with Gen Chem, you have a strict curfew, right? Your strict curfew is always balance your chemical equations. You're never allowed to not. And then in OChem, you're like older, you're more mature, you know that every chemical reaction is balanced, so we don't have to do it every single time. And the reason why we don't have to do it is because you spent a year doing it every single time, now you know. So there's totally, I believe there's water involved in glycolysis. But we don't show it because it's OChem, not Gen Chem. Totally. That's my filler word. If you didn't already know. Let's see. How do you calculate things? When you don't balance. So you won't really. There's like very little math in organic chemistry. And for most reactions in OChem, and when I say most, I do mean like almost all, like 99%. There is a 1 to 1 mole ratio between moles of limiting reagent moles of limiting reagents and moles of product. So calculations are easy. And really, you're only doing those types of calculations in lab. You don't really do those in lecture. But lab, you'll like calculate a percent yield, for example, all that stuff. And so you do that more in the lab section, but lecture, completely different animal. Yeah, OChem, it's OChem, not Gen Chem. That is absolutely correct. It's OChem gets hard in different ways, but you kind of get to leave the stoichiometric fixation of Gen Chem behind, which I think is a welcome change. It's nice that these two classes have different flavors, as opposed to being carbon copies. There's an OChem pun for you. Carbon copies of each other. Boop. I'm going to go back to coloring my question mark slide while you guys cook up some more questions. Let's see, that should be green. This should be green. I think O's are going to be green. But I think I'm going to make the A's blue. N's get red. Oh, let's see. Is it organic chemistry as second textbook? Do you mean is the OChem text for both semesters? I'd say definitely in English. Okay. Sorry. Okay, now I understand your question. Let me take a look. I believe it's just called I believe I'm looking at it now on Amazon. It's just called organic chemistry. They got very creative with the title. By David R. Klein. His middle initial pays homage to his pirate ancestors. Let's see. 1 Gen, I am bootlegging it, lol. Yeah, I mean, honestly, yep. Arr, matey. Honestly, usually the only difference between editions usually is the number of the practice problems. That they change the numberings between editions. So, as a study tool, they should be both equally helpful, both first and second. Totally. Oh man, now I'm out of things to color. Let's make the F blue. Yeah, man. I'm honestly just stoked to have organic chemistry questions up in here. Imagine if your favorite thing in the world was something that no one wanted to talk about. But then imagine if they created a job where students were paying to hear you talk about it, and now you know what my adult life is like. Nobody likes my favorite thing to talk about, but sometimes, I know I'm mostly on the Gen Chem train right now at FLC, but sometimes I get to go to this magical place called Ochem Lab where students are paying money to hear me talk about the thing that nobody wants me to talk about. I relish these sections, these lab sections. It's like getting dessert for dinner. Totally. Yeah. That would be awesome. Oh yeah, no worries. That would give you time to like kind of collect your thoughts, kind of like organize the things that you need help on, and make for more precise question asking, as opposed to, I feel like I'm basically a starved feral dog, and I've got you trapped in an alleyway, and you're like desperately trying to find any scrap of food on your person. You're like trying to, here, try this granola bar. Turns out I eat the granola bar way too fast. And you're like, I think I have a piece of cheese, and you throw that at me. But again, it's gone. But if you knew that you were going to get trapped by a feral dog, then you would have put maybe like a steak in your backpack, for example, raw, of course. And then you could throw that to me and watch me tear through the steak, but then gnaw on the bone for a while, and maybe sending me your questions for next office hours might allow for that, as opposed to scrambling to try to figure out what you need help on. You can actually take the time to do that, and which will make it a more productive learning experience next time around. Totally makes sense. Alrighty. Well, so if are there any other questions out there? Um, if there are not, then I think we'll wrap up this stream. Later, dude. Catch you on Friday. Yeah, I think I'll wrap up this stream if we don't have any more questions. Again, I'm always here. I'm always ready to talk about OChem. I appreciate everybody who dropped by. Remember, you can always email in your stuff. And, you know, the huge. I hope everybody's, of course. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Yeah, but I'm always down to talk OChem. Hit me up with your questions, email them in, or wait to ask them live. Either way, anyway, I'm always down for a discussion. I hope you guys are surviving okay, and I will catch all of you OChem homies next week.